Hey, Motorman here. What you're seeing right now is about 90 minutes into my normal class, and there's 5 guys. These guys all work together. In fact, we were supposed to start with, I think it was 10 riders, but we had to move the class to Saturday. I'm editing this on Sunday as you're watching it. And whenever we have to move a class, we usually lose a few of the riders who either work on Saturday or just couldn't make it that day. But these 5 guys work together. They do a lot of good-natured ribbing, and they asked me to go right along with it. And of course, when somebody tells me that, they don't have to say it twice. I enjoy that myself. And you'll see exactly how I took them from the average level, or maybe a little bit better than average, to what you just saw. Now, this is how we start them off the first exercise. It's a slow cone weave and leads them into about a 32-foot U-turn. You've seen this on my other videos. What you haven't seen is several of them, in fact, all 5 of them made it through this exercise, mostly without knocking over any cones and using the proper techniques. Maybe not to the fullest because they're just starting out, but that's why they came to the class. They practiced using my video prior to getting here, and all I needed to do was refine their skills. When I get a class of people that are doing well to begin with, who have a good handle on the techniques prior to getting there, it makes my life so much easier. Doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to do that, but you will get so much more out of the class. If you have my Ride Like a Pro video, and like these guys, you get a few cones or cut some tennis balls in half, go out and find an empty parking lot. You get the practice guide when you get my video, so you know how to set everything up. And that's what they did. And I don't know how many hours they put in. I would guess by the looks of it, at least 2 or 3 hours they practiced on different days to get to this level prior to coming to the class. And it really works out well. They get a lot more out of it when all they need to do really is refine their skills. Now, their boss, the guy who brought up 4 of his employees there, he might have been what I would call had a higher fear level than the rest of them. Had a good handle on the techniques, but was having some problems with the friction zone. Eventually, after the class 4 hours or so, we got him over that, and he made it through every exercise. All right, here's these guys going through the exercise for the first time. We got 5 riders because we had to switch the class from Sunday because it was going to rain tomorrow to Saturday. And when that happens, we always lose some riders who can't make it on the Saturday. But we got six guys that don't look like they're afraid of anything. Not too bad. Nobody knocked a cone over yet. Don't look at those cones. I see you looking. I see you looking down. Turn your head. More throttle. Right here. Keep looking at me. Looking at me. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Next, we move on to the offset cone weave. This is a series of quick left turns and right turns, or transitions from left to right. The idea is to turn your head as fast as possible, look over your shoulder, and no sooner do you complete your turn in one direction, you have to turn your head and eyes and look in the opposite direction, so that the bike leans complete right to complete left, or complete left to complete right. Riders did very well, much better than the average rider who comes to me and has never practiced any of the techniques. But since these guys practiced prior to getting there, they did okay. In fact, later on, I was able to actually tighten this up. In fact, I tightened up just about every one of the exercises for this group because they did so well. One of the riders, as I mentioned, didn't have quite as good a handle on the techniques as the others. You're going to see him coming up in just a moment, and he tended to go out of the friction zone. Now, if you have your clutch almost completely released and you're stepping on the rear brake, the bike tends to want to stall out, and of course that caused problems. I had to pull him aside and explain this to him, and he wasn't turning his head and eyes as much as he should have. The faster and further you turn your head and eyes, the better, the quicker you'll make these transitions. Here he comes now, and you'll watch he doesn't turn his head and eyes fast enough, and he's not able to get inside the gates. Not a big deal. This is why we have this class. If everybody was perfect, they wouldn't need me. So I don't mind them making mistakes, and I do my best to make sure they understand what they're doing wrong and how to correct those mistakes.
Problem is,
Yep.
your front tire placement is awful.
Okay.
You're zigzagging. You're coming straight from that gate straight
Yep.
over here, and then trying to make that really tight turn. You can't do it.
Can't do it.
That's why I say you got to bring it back. Watch him. See, he brings it back that way.
Okay.
Now he's got a lot of room.
All right.
Screw up the first one, and they all start to get worse and worse. In addition, not near it, you're not slipping that clutch enough.
The clutch enough.
You've got the clutch almost fully engaged, and you're
Yep.
stepping on the brake. That's what's causing that
Jumping.
Yeah. So you got to stay in that friction zone.
Okay.
Keep the pressure on the rear brake and turn your head nice.
All right. So the minute I come through that gate, I gotta
You better look back there.
look back there.
Yeah.
Swing it. Come back in.
Right. If you
All right.
have to, you could always go around the cone.
Okay.
When you stare at that green cone too long, you hit it.
Fucking
Right?
up. Yeah, I'm fucking it up.
Yeah.
All right. Let me give it.
You'll get it.
All right.
In this clip, you'll see exactly what I was telling him. He doesn't turn his head quick enough, straightens up the motorcycle, and when you do that, the bike goes straight instead of transitioning quickly from left to right. Eventually, he gets it, though. It just takes some people a little bit longer than others. Had he turned his head and eyes quick enough, he'd easily make it through each one of the gates, and if he stayed in the friction zone. I felt these riders were ready for more of a challenge, so I tightened up the offset cone weave, and it's almost at motor officer size, and I demonstrated, showing them how important that head turn is, transitioning quickly from left to right. Now they had mastered it at full size. Let's watch them going through when it's a lot tighter. This, by the way, was the best rider in the class, and he figures out if he doesn't turn his head and eyes quick enough, he's not going to make it through that gate. But of course, you could always go around. Same thing with this rider. Because I've changed it now, his head turn has to be that much faster. That head turn is so important. The tighter the course, the quicker the head turn must be, and the further you must turn your head. We've now moved on to the intersection, and since the rider's got a really good handle on riding the entire intersection, I put a variation. We put circles in 2 of the legs, and I put 4 bikes in at one time. I'm bringing up the rear, and anytime the riders start to slow up a bit, I just give them a 2 to the air horn. It's got to where now it looks like a practice drill team. Doing this stresses the riders a bit, but they wanted more of a challenge, and I knew that these riders were up to it. If there was any doubt in my mind about that, I wouldn't put 4 bikes in there. Next, I have the riders doing figure eights in one of the legs of the intersection. Figure eight forces the rider to use their head and eyes and look only where they want to go, and do it quickly. If you don't do it quickly, you'll go outside the cones. There's a big orange X in the middle of it, and I tell the riders just focus on that X. Every time you run it over, try to find it again. The sooner you find it, the sooner you'll go back to it. All the riders made it through this. In fact, they made it through easily. Now we move on to the Dreaded Snowman. I say dreaded because so many riders have a problem with this. This is Joe Pierce. He's demonstrating the exercise. He's one of my associates and an excellent rider, and he demonstrates it perfectly. We have 3 circles. The first one is 30 feet to the left, second one is 26 feet to the right, and the last one is 24 feet to the left. Why so many riders find it difficult is because if you look at the cone right in front of you, instead of the green cones, there's 2 of them in each circle, you're not going to make it. Watch this rider cut himself short. Looks at the cone right in front of him, he's got to put a foot down. And he pulls out. He had a real good handle on the clutch and throttle, but his head and eyes were just a little bit late. This rider you see here, he does an excellent job. Turned out to be the best rider in the class. And probably the most aggressive. This is where we get aggressive, in the parking lot, not out on the street. He turns his head and eyes. He looks for the green cones, and he makes it through. It's just a matter of using that friction zone, turning your head and eyes quickly, and looking at the place where you want to put that front tire. The sooner you find that spot where you want to put the front tire, the better. With circles like this, when you get about 8 feet from the green cone, you better turn your head and look for the next green cone. If you rely on what your brain tells you, it's always going to be too late. Right there, he should already be looking at the next green cone. He does, and he makes it through. This rider also did a great job, had no fear. And once again, let's watch this rider with the green shirt, as he does it so well. The less fear you have, the sooner you pick up these techniques. The higher the fear level, the longer it takes. It doesn't mean if you have a high fear level that you're not going to be able to do it. It just means it's going to take a little bit longer for you to get the hang of the techniques. Here I'm explaining to the guy who was on the low rider that he just wasn't turning his head fast enough. So as he goes through the exercise, I'm going to walk behind him and I'm going to tell him when he should turn his head. I'm telling him right now, next cone, next cone. Every time he gets near the green cone, I'm yelling next cone, so he looks for that next one as quickly as possible. I tell him, he turns his head, and he makes it through. Now watch this next rider. He was what the other riders considered to be the weakest in the class. It's not me saying that. It was his friends. They said, yeah, he's the weakest of all of us. But I tell him when to turn his head. He listens. He turns his head. And he makes it through. I hope you enjoyed this, folks. Hope you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you in a few days.